And welcome back to episode 52 of The Hunt. Today it is the two of us. Once again, Jarrod Aiden Potts. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah.
But we're back with an episode a little bit different to our normal episodes. We're going to be jumping into some case studies because we want to show you guys how we onboard and what kind of goes through our heads when we have different cases. But before we start that, let's do a quick little review of IPF Worlds. So
IPF Worlds.
that was, when you guys hear this, that was 3 weeks ago. But, mate, how did you see it? Did you enjoy it?
It's good fun. Yeah, it's good to watch. Really, really impressed and proud of how Team Australia went.
100%, mate.
Men and women. It was really, really good. Our predictions that we made, we got pretty good. Some were a bit off.
Yeah.
Some unexpected outcomes, like Kasim San, for instance.
Yeah, Kasim Sam, Albert Bostrom,
Heather Connor.
Connor.
Good. It was like we like that.
Yeah, we do.
To an extent. Obviously not so much in the case of Kasim San.
No.
But, sometimes upsets or tight battles with unexpected winners are pretty good.
They are.
Yeah.
And, it was a bit of a weird world. Like, I would say the refereeing was probably the worst it's ever been, in my opinion, in terms of consistency.
I'd have to agree with you there, yeah.
I'm always never going to blame the refs.
Of course.
For outcomes of competitions.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're 2-1 good or bad lift, like, you can just assume that's always going to get overturned to the opposite, right?
But, like, when I'm watching Worlds or any international for that matter, but especially open Worlds, and I see a 2-1, I'm always like, that's going to be overturned to a no lift.
Yeah, but
9 times out of 10,
it just means that I guess a lot of things can change if you are on the international platform. You just got to be undeniable, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Standard of lifting, like I think there was a big wake up call for a lot of us, even in our own training,
for sure.
But it should be always something you should strive for. 3 white lights, so there's obviously non-negotiables. But something I want to give a shout out to Rainier Cortez. He put up a really good post.
He did actually on his story the other day.
Sorry, that's right. And he spoke about how he thinks that there should be, I think he mentioned top 5 of each weight class in like a Group A flight. So
they
like
could top
use
5, like 60-3s and 80-3s, for instance, to go together in like a prime time flight. Yeah. And then they get a jury. Is that what he was saying? Jury. Yeah.
I don't know about top 5. I feel like you may as well maximize the flight and just use top 7.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But the idea is good.
It is very good.
It is good.
So I think with more referees coming out of 2025 for APA Nationals, it should hopefully be really good for us to have a jury at Nationals so we can prepare ourselves for the jury at Worlds.
And I feel like we have enough national referees now to...
You reckon?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I only refed one category at Mega Nats and Open Nats, so I assume that means that there's more of them, right? But
yeah. Like I think I did 2 at Mega Nats. I didn't get to do Open Nats this year.
Yeah.
But it feels like more referees are coming in. More people are going to end up becoming national referees, as well as I feel like we've got more national referees now than we did this time last year too. So.
Sure, and it probably just means that like if there's more people running a jury, there's probably less people able to become national level referees too. But you'd just be that in the B group flights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. I feel like APA is very innovative and reactive to
100%.
Moving forward in the sport.
Yeah, it's
good. I would not be surprised if Rainier's suggestions are heard. But other than that, as you already mentioned, Team Australia, I think last year placed far out. I think 23rd in the men and like 17th in the women. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I didn't know it was
so for us to be 8th in the men
jump.
And then 7th in the women is phenomenal.
It is.
Like that is
huge.
sick. So very proud to be an Australian powerlifter.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, we're both our entire club. Like we're just proud to be part of the process of pushing Australian powerlifting forward. So big congrats to all the lifters and all the coaches.
Well done, everyone.
Yes, well done. All right, well let's get started.
Yep.
So how this is going to work is I'm going to read one case to Jarrod, a person of description. And Jarrod, all I need you to do, mate, is just basically review and summarize some key factors to consider with onboarding this client. Okay?
Yep.
So
I get my notes out.
No, you're right. That's all good. So Jarrod doesn't know what I'm about to say. Okay? And I don't know what Jarrod's about to say to me, but we have 2 case studies each. So to the listeners that are playing at home, essentially This is how we go through our onboarding system. We go into quite a fair bit of detail where we speak with our client for up to half an hour to an hour, sometimes depending on how many questions there are back and forth. But we want to basically build the best product for the client. And I think, would you say that you have like a go-to thing in your toolbox when a client starts with you? Like you have like...
as in the onboarding process, or in terms of writing the initial program?
Writing the initial program. Like, would you say that there are some staples in your program that you like to bias to based on like weight class, height, gender, age, training age?
Yeah, definitely. I think training age is probably a big one.
Yep.
Yeah. Just really simple things to start off, to be honest. And then, obviously the more I learn about the person, the longer I'm with them, the more I can, I guess, make it more specific and I guess more fun if that's needed.
Should always be fun, right?
It should always be fun, that's right. But, if for whatever instance the first one doesn't hit, yeah.
And that's the thing. Whenever it hits, it's a fluke, right? Because like you're just literally
that's right.
throwing whatever you think will work best at them. But usually when a client onboards with me, I tend to kind of think about those things I mentioned: weight class, age, gender, training age, accessibility to certain equipment. Like
if they got any like injuries as well, injuries or niggles,
session time lengths, how many days per week, what days of the week. A lot of those sort of things will help me design, I guess, like a skeleton based off the programs that I usually give everyone when they first start, if they're on a 3, 4, 5 day split.
Yep.
And not to say that like I give cookie cutter programs, it's just it gives me, it covers a lot of bases to start with. It helps me understand where to go in the future based on how they respond. And I have directions to go once they do it, because once they do it, it's kind of like, okay, this worked well. I can lean into this more, or this didn't seem to go too well. Let's try this. And you're also like mixing in improving technique at the same time.
That's right.
So how much noise are you playing with in terms of what the program's actually doing versus how the client is actually executing the exercises? Because that can have a dramatic impact on RPE and obviously, in niggles and injuries and things like that. So there's so many things to consider, but
exactly.
At the end of the day, I think having a skeleton of knowing what to give your client straight off the bat is something that every coach should have in their arsenal. And it's not to say that everyone's getting the same thing. All I'm just trying to say is that it helps you hit the clues faster in figuring out what works best moving forward.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's start. So I'm going to read the first case study to Jarrod. And
let me just grab a drink.
No, you're right. So this first case study is Abbie. She's 20 years old, so she's a junior, and she's 67 kilos body weight. She's 173 centimeters tall. That's taller than you, mate. Has long limbs and torso. She's a full-time uni student, works part-time, has a stressful job, but handles uni quite well. Otherwise, the stress in her daily life is quite normal.
Okay.
Her training age is 1.5 years, 6 months of just powerlifting, and she's self-coached. She has been running a 4-day split, ranging between 90 minutes and 120 minutes, so 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yep.
She currently trains Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Hold on.
No, you're right.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yep. And her sessions run in order of heavy squat, heavy bench, heavy deadlift, heavy overhead press.
So heavy squat, heavy bench.
Yep.
And say heavy overhead press?
Yeah, she does heavy overhead press on Saturdays.
Yeah, okay. No deadlifting?
Yeah, so heavy squat, heavy bench, heavy deadlift.
Sorry.
Right.
Thank you.
So that's her Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday split. She also benches like lighter on other days along with squat and deadlift and overhead press. So she hits everything twice a week. And her sessions basically alternate in terms of like lower body accessories on the Monday with her heavy squat, upper body accessories on the Tuesday with a heavy bench, lower body accessories with her heavy deadlift, and then upper body accessories on the Saturday with her heavy overhead press. She enjoys training arms and back. Her favorite lift of the SBD is the deadlift. Her current PBs are 95 squat, 57 bench, and 130 deadlift. She's very lean, and she states that she struggles to put on weight. She would say that her bench is the least favorite and has plateaued for 2 months, so a third of the time that she has been powerlifting.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
So
You said she benches twice a week?
benches twice a week at the moment.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So with all that information, Cake,
Yep.
what are some key factors to consider with Abbie?
Let me take that drink first, mate.
All right, sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
Sorry, guys, I'm pausing real quick while Jarrod takes a drink.
Very sorry.
Rock and
All
roll.
right. Let's rock and roll. Abbie. So the very first thing that I'm going to look at is how she's stated how she hates bench.
Yep.
Hates it, doesn't like it, doesn't feel like she's good at it. So she trains, 4 days a week, benches twice a week. If she's okay with it, I'd opt to put her bench frequency up to, we'll start at 3 times a week, see how she handles that. And if, the need is to go to 4 times a week down the track, then sure, let's do it.
Yep.
But I don't think it's typically a good thing, especially when starting with someone who does have like a younger training age like Abbie, to put them up to like the max bench frequency straight away.
100%. You want to squeeze the juice first.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, squeeze the juice. That's actually a good analogy. Like, you don't want to squeeze all the juice straight away, and like when you squeeze the juice out of like a lemon or something, you have like the skin goes all like wrinkly. You don't want to like
not to jump into horticulture, but yeah, you're right. So you want to think about it like not adding a 4th day of bench in or based off 2, because a 4th day of bench at the end of the day is like 10 sets, right? Almost.
Yeah.
On average, you could be thinking about maybe 8 to 12 more sets. That's a shit ton.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, yeah.
And she says here that bench is her least hurt lift because it has plateaued, not because she doesn't like it. She just doesn't like it because it's plateaued, right?
Yeah.
So how are you fixing that?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Increasing the frequency?
Yeah, increasing the frequency by 1 day. I'd probably question the overhead press day as well, to be honest, because obviously she said that she wants to be doing powerlifting, correct? Powerlifting for 6 months, but, why is she dedicating 1 day to heavy overhead press? Sure, like, if she enjoys it, we can keep it in the program, right, as an accessory, but what about we change that heavy overhead press day to
the 3rd bench day?
Exactly right.
Very good.
That's exactly right.
And the other thing as well is like a lot of these template programs that you get for people who are self-coached and have been training for a very short period of time, a lot of those programs have overhead press in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just one of those exercises.
It's just one of those like staple exercises for gym goers. Hey.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And it's not a bad exercise, but not very specific for powerlifting. So yeah, I would put that heavy overhead press day to maybe a primary bench day. I'd keep she at the moment she said she does her Tuesday as her heavy bench day. I'd keep it as like the secondary bench day, so she can still push it a bit, but keeping in mind that your primary is on the Saturday, and then chuck in on what she has Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. On the Thursday, let's give her like a tempo bench day.
Yeah,
just something where she can have more time under tension and help her body really learn like the motor patterns of bench pressing.
Yep. Getting the body ready to do some good bench pressing on Saturday.
That's exactly right.
And I think what you did a good job there of Cake is that you've given her a day's rest between bench days as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're adding a layer, you kind of want to make sure that you're spacing well in terms of fatigue. So Tuesday, heavy bench, probably a fair bit of volume as well. Wednesday's your day off. And then Thursday, you're back into it, but it's not as heavy and hard. It's just, as you said, a tempo day to practice. Yeah. And Friday's off. So, you're just getting even fresher for your Saturday. And Saturday, you're back on again into a 2-day rest before Tuesday.
Exactly right.
So that's a good split. What about, I guess, on the topic of upper body, she mentions here that arm and back accessories, she really enjoys doing that. So where are you throwing that sort of stuff?
So at the moment, she alternates her accessories. Hey, so she does lower, upper, lower, upper.
Yep.
So I'd probably keep, that kind of accessory split the same. I guess it would be good to know like what specific accessories that she does do already. But on that note, if she has said she already enjoys it, then why not chuck in some like fun supersets? Like have a superset where you do some cable tricep katanas and then go do like dumbbell hammer curls or something like that. Just, get a pump, get jacked. She said that she struggles to put on weight. So I guess just combining things that push her muscles closer to failure, and I guess check in with her how her nutrition is as well, like how much protein she getting roughly. See if she needs to get in contact with a nutritionist as well. She's 67 kilos, so she can obviously fill out that 69 kilo class a bit more, but you did say she's very lean, right?
She's very lean, but
she's also 103
I will just jump in
centimeters.
because this will change your answer. She works a stressful job. She works part-time. So
that's right.
And she's also a full-time uni student, so
that's
I don't think she can necessarily afford.
She probably can't.
Nutritionist, right?
Sorry, thank you for that.
No, you're right. So, what are some like suggestions you can make for someone like that who's struggling to put on weight? How are you going to obviously help her put it on in a cost-effective manner?
Yeah, for sure. Well, nowadays we have the luxury of like ready-made meals. You know, you can just slap it in the microwave. She can take it with her to uni, put in the library microwave, even like liquid calories, so like protein shakes, things like that.
Yep.
Juices even to like, you know, fuel her sessions with some good carbs.
Yep.
Just recommend strategies like that, you know, and that way then when she is on her, I'm assuming she's on her feet at work. When she's on her feet at work, she's got things on the go that she can just sip on or nibble on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the most effective way as a uni student is understanding that you don't have the luxury of variety in terms of what you can eat. So it is very important if you want to be cost effective with your money as a student to make sure that you're buying things that are ticking those macro and micronutrient targets cost effectively. So straight off the bat, like we always hear chicken and rice is like the go-to if you're a uni student because you can buy a pack of chicken thighs for like $20 and then you're buying a kilo of rice. You're probably not getting through that for at least a fortnight, right?
Yeah.
Or even a month in some cases if you're not a big eater. And that alone is just going to be very cheap, very cost effective for you to have all the time. And then things outside that you can fill the gaps. Yeah, you can have some bread with peanut butter in the morning for breakfast. And then at night time, you might indulge in some beef mince or something, you know what I mean? Just to mix up the selections that you have.
Yeah, just so you don't get bored of the same thing all the time.
But like I said, you don't really have the luxury of variety, right? Okay, I think one thing I will add in is just with the training arms and back. If she's doing heavy deadlifts, and this is something that I like to do, if anyone's doing deadlifts, I like to generally throw some back work on that day as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So on that Thursday where she's doing the heavy deadlift and leg accessories, I would also probably throw some extra back work in, despite probably already doing some on the other
just to like get
days.
the scaps moving around.
Literally, because the bar pulling you forward into that reach position, it is important, especially if you're deadlifting benching on the Saturday.
She deadlifts on the Thursday, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
Get the scaps
moving.
Get the scaps moving. Bit of movement variability. And then because you're moving your back through elbow flexion and obviously shoulder extension, you probably may as well throw some biceps in there as well because the biceps are already doing something. You may as well hit them twice. But yeah, there's a couple of little key takeaways there for young Abbie.
You did also mention too, she's probably, I assume, based off the 130 deadlift and being quite long-limbed in the torso, she's probably very good at deadlifting, right? Which is definitely pulling her forward. So even more reason to get the scaps moving. And those long limbs could also be a contributing factor to like the contrast in a bench press.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing though, like some people who are already naturally good at doing one lift, like Abbie in this instance, her deadlift is already like quite developed for a very early beginner. I would say that like no matter what you do as a coach, she's probably still just going to respond really well to anything because she's already predisposed to a natural leverage to pick up the bar. So I would probably just preface that to her that like, okay, you know, the deadlift is always going to be there. So try and make sure that like you're not forgetting about it almost because
exactly.
You can see that her squat is a bit lower and her bench is a bit lower than that lift. And it's really important that you do build that subtotal, especially as a deadlift specialist.
Sure.
At the end of the day, you don't want to have to load a 50-50 pull in that third pull, right?
Yeah, nah.
But 95 squat, 57 bench, 130 deadlift, what are some ideal goals you could shoot for maybe at the end of a macro cycle?
Let's look at the squat, 195. I don't know, like 105, 110.
Well,
Are you talking numbers goals?
Yeah. I would. This is the thing, right? When you onboard a client this young, they're looking at milestones.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
First 100 kilo squat. First first 60 kilo
Yeah,
bench,
okay,
like
okay,
one,
okay.
like 2 blues,
Yeah.
1 blue, and then a 3 blue deadlift. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm probably looking at.
Okay.
What do you reckon?
I agree. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were like short term goals.
200.
I'm just saying she's good for it, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
a lot of faith in Abbie.
Yeah. Let's go, Abbie.
But yeah, like that's the thing too. Like you can leverage the milestone stuff, especially if they're this close to them, because it means that like you're not aiming too high for setting up yourself a disappointment.
Yeah.
And then
What's that saying? Shoot for the
stars lay on the moon.
Yeah, that's the one.
But
yeah.
again, that's disappointment because you've missed the stars, right? Like
Okay,
that's what I mean. It's probably not a very good analogy to use, but
no, yeah, you're right.
I will mention that with the milestone numbers, not only doing it for just like a single, but doing it for multiple reps.
Yeah,
you know
that's huge.
Like distracting the athlete away from the single is such an undervalued goal. So I think that would be the next step. If once Abbie hits these goals, you just look at trying to do them for sets of, you know what I mean? All right.
For sure.
Cool. Hope you enjoy that, Abbie, the imaginary figure.
Cool. All right. So I give you a case study now. That's right.
Case study 2. Let's go.
You ready? Yep. All right. Case study number 2. Here we have Adam. Adam's 23 years old. He weighs 104 kilos and he's 176 centimeters. So that actually is about my height, or a tad taller.
That's exactly my height.
Oh, well, there you go. Even better. He has a short torso, short arms, and average femur tibia fibula length. Okay. He works a 9-to-5 job, moderate stress and moderate life stress.
Yep.
He's a training age of 4 years. 2 years just doing general strength training, 2 years powerlifting, 1 year self-coached under templates, and 1 year with another coach.
Yep.
He swapped coaches recently due to moving and values in-person coaching very highly.
Okay.
He was running a 5-day split with his previous coach. Training Monday, he would do primary deadlift with upper and lower accessories. Tuesday, he would have his volume bench day with accessories. I'm assuming that's upper accessories, but it doesn't state here.
Yep.
Wednesday, secondary bench, secondary squat, and upper lower accessories. Rest day on the Thursday. Friday would be like a preparation day, so light bench volume and SSB squatting. And that's to prepare him for his Saturday, where he'll do primary squat, primary bench, and secondary deadlift, so an SBD day.
There you go.
It doesn't say anything about accessories here. And then Sunday he would rest.
Yep.
He's reported that he feels tired and lacking in energy. He wants to keep pushing as he's competing to qualify for nationals in 12 weeks' time. His SBD numbers, so relatively good. Well, hang on. He doesn't actually have his numbers here, but he says his SBD, relatively good squat, a big bench, relatively weak deadlift, and he's 50 kilos under the junior nationals qualifying total.
Okay. So he's 23, going into his last year as a junior.
That's correct.
So 50 kilos in a year is pretty fucking hard. But that's the thing. I'm being honest with him. You know, because you don't want to blow smoke up a junior's ass and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you the world. You're gonna be number one." Like I'm not.
And then
that.
It doesn't happen, and
how does that look on you? Yeah. And
yeah.
considering that, like, he has already had a coach in the past, and he says here that he values in-person coaching. That's going to be such a benefit for him, because like having a coach with you inside the gym, watching you lift, the feedback is instant, and you can auto-regulate load. You can make sure that like your technique is really good. You're getting feedback to apply to the next set, not like the next session or the next week in some cases, because that's how coaches work online. So I would say that value is going to be really high.
I do think in-person coaching is so like, especially nowadays in the world where pretty much everyone's doing online coaching or they're getting coached by an online coach.
Yeah.
It's just so valuable.
Yeah, it is very valuable.
Yeah. It's underlooked in my opinion.
It is underrated.
Yeah. Carry on.
But yeah, I would have a serious discussion about hitting the QT, and I would look at hitting a competition that gives him good spacing to hit the QT or a good opportunity, because you need time. So you need at least, in my opinion, 16 to 11 weeks to peak for a nationals event. So for someone at 104, and you want to think about hitting a competition that is as close as you can to that date, because it gives you the time to hit the QT. So I would say that, okay, that's the plan. That's what we're going to look at.
Yep.
Right, let's look at what the plan's going to look like. So training age 4 years, so he's relatively trained. He says that there's no injuries here or anything, which is great. Relatively good squat because of those average femur and tib lengths and short torso. Big bench, so he's
Checks
already
out.
Yeah, so with the big bench, we're probably not going to change the bench split very much. That's the thing as well. If an athlete comes to me and they're saying that this is good, look at my numbers, and I'm seeing that massive discrepancy, like a big deadlift or like a big squat or a big bench, you generally don't want to change much.
Exactly right.
Because you want to more so look at why is that doing so well.
Yeah.
And you want to, I guess, exacerbate it a little bit more.
Yep.
Or potentially change a couple little things, technically speaking, to make it a bit more efficient, because you see the inefficiencies, whether it be with an unrack or a brace or leg drive, or all the little staple things that you value as a coach, with those little easy markers that you can change. But as for the program itself, the sets, the reps, the layout, the spacing, the priming, the whatever it is, you want to try and keep that as similar as you possibly can, because that's why that athlete is doing so well. It's working. Don't try and fix something that's not broken.
Exactly right.
Looking at it though, he has reported that he feels tired and lacks energy. Because the thing is that he has an SBD day, and I steer away from running SBD days for anyone heavier than 93 kilos. There are people out there that do SBD days. Don't get me wrong. I know Marcellus, he programs SBD days for pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
But you got to look at the type of athletes that he's
you
programming.
Look at their training age as well. And
they're freaks. They're top of the game because of who they are.
Exactly right.
And because young Adam here has only been training for 4 years, and he has
2 years powerlifting experience.
Yeah, and he's 50 kilos under the junior Nats QT. You don't need to be so specific with that, because if you're hitting primary squat and primary bench and a secondary deadlift, you can probably assume that his SBD fitness, so to speak, is not going to be as good. And that can obviously lead into him feeling tired and lacking energy or ability to execute those heavier sessions. So what you want to try and do is with someone who trains 5 days a week like this, and the cool thing about 5 days a week is that you have so many different ways you can program in terms of spacing the primary days itself. So what I would look at probably doing is potentially, especially if he already has a relatively weak deadlift, is probably create more spacing between his secondary and primary deadlift. So he originally reported that his Saturday has a secondary deadlift and his Monday is the primary deadlift. So that's only 1 day's rest between. And I think that's way too close for someone who needs to spend a bit more time building their deadlift. So what I would do is I would actually swap it. I would put the secondary deadlift on the Monday, and I'd probably actually change the primary deadlift to the Friday.
Yeah.
Because
I back that.
Because the Friday deadlift is going to give you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. 3 days rest, right, instead of just one. So you're already looking to be fresher for that lift itself. There's no real impact or bleeding or fatigue from that secondary deadlift session. And you can, as mentioned, feeling way fresher for that Friday primary deadlift session. As for the squat, I would probably change the primary squat to Monday as well. Yeah. So I did say SBD days wouldn't be very smart, but I personally believe having 2 primary of the 3 main lifts on one day is too much for someone at that body weight and that training age. So you'd probably run a primary squat, a secondary bench, and then a secondary deadlift on that day. You ain't got one lift you got to turn up for. You know what I mean? And the rest is kind of just get it done.
Yeah.
So primary squat on the Monday, that means that he's had Sunday off. He's feeling pretty fresh. He can lean into that relatively good squat that he already has. And then you're probably looking at trying to do his secondary day either on a Thursday or potentially on a Friday or whatever it may be. But I personally think that it shouldn't be before the primary deadlift in terms of the Friday. I think it needs to be probably on a Saturday. So there's going to have to be some tinkering around with the micro itself.
Yeah.
Again, similar to the deadlift, you want to have better spacing for a lifter like this who reports that they feel tired and they lack energy. The spacing is really important.
Yes.
So that pretty much explains everything.
So
you
did pretty well to cover everything there.
Yeah.
Cool.
he does mention here that he wants to keep pushing as he's competing to qualify for nationals in 12 weeks, 50 kilos under. As mentioned before, that, you know, we're talking about an imaginary person here, so it's quite hard to think about.
Right.
But if you need to put 50 kilos on your total in 12 weeks, you're probably not going to. Miracles can happen.
Oh, yeah.
But you want to not let them lose faith in you, and they need to understand that it is very hard to put that many kilos on your total in that short period of time. And some people can do it, but you just got to make sure that they're understanding that, you know, they're coming to you, and I've already, as mentioned, I'm changing their macro split. That makes sense to me in terms of where to put things. And
it makes sense, but you don't even know for sure yet
if it's going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It should work.
Yep.
Like on paper, there's spacing, there's consideration of fatigue management, there's priorities around the lift that sucks. We're keeping the things that's working. Like those boxes are being ticked.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for like selling, you know, the world to him, you just got to make sure that you're being realistic altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Well done, Adam. All right, moving on to our second last case study. So we have Sandra, 54.
Holy shit, hang
Youngin.
on. Let me get my notes.
Yeah, you're right. So she's an M2 lifter.
54 kilos.
No, 54 age, mate.
54 age.
Yeah,
okay,
M2.
sorry.
66 kilos body weight.
There we go.
157 centimeters tall. Long arms.
Hang on.
I'm just going to have to keep talking because otherwise the listeners is going to be like...
How many centimeters tall?
157. She has long arms, short legs, average torso. She has a low-stress job and moderate life stress. She started training for her health after recommendation from her daughter 5 years ago. She moved to weight section in the last year. She enjoys getting stronger and decided that she wants to hire a coach. She works part-time, looks after 3 grandkids under 10 years old, also throughout the week. She has not ever followed a program before. She has only attended strength group classes previously, and she's not the best with phones. She injured her knee in her previous job. It sometimes causes pain, experiences right shoulder pain, exacerbated the next morning day if she sleeps on it at night. Her goal is to become stronger, fitter, to keep up with her grandkids, but also to compete for the first time later this year. How'd you go?
Yeah, mate, all good.
All right, cool.
All right,
this is
Sandra.
a pretty, like, I would say this is a pretty common
It is actually.
case.
Yeah.
Like the amount of masters lifters that we have here that don't compete and they just want to
They just enjoy getting strong.
Enjoy being part of a community, and just obviously like thinking about the next stage of their life.
Exactly. I was about to say that, increase their longevity in life. Yeah, it's good. All right. Well,
So key factors, mate, to consider.
Well, I'm just looking firstly at how she's not very good with phones. Did you mention that she wants to come for in-person coaching?
Yeah, so she'll be in person.
Gotcha. Well, there we go. That solves that. So, Sandra.
But even so, if she's not in person, you just send her an email and you just tell her print this off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a difference.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned how many days a week she trains?
At the moment, no.
Probably based off like, you know, age and like
commitments.
I'd probably give her no more than 3 days a week.
And pains too.
Yes, correct. So 3 days a week, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep. Perfect.
Give her a squat day on the Monday. I'm thinking 1 time squat, 1 time deadlift, 2 time bench.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the Monday, Wednesday, Friday is great because it means, as mentioned before with Abbie, the spacing matters, right?
It does.
Especially at an older age.
Yeah.
Like she will train and feel stiff. Like that's the probably common word.
Exactly.
That we hear
and if she's got, you know, 3 grandkids to look after, she's going to want to spend the weekends with them, right? So, you know, squat on the Monday. Let's give her like let's give her a tempo bench on the Monday as well.
Yep.
Wednesday, let's give her like her main bench day. So, upper body accessories as well on the Wednesday. Monday, lower body accessories. Friday can be her main deadlift day, and she'll do like a mix of lower and upper accessories. So, say 2 lower, 2 upper.
Perfect.
All right. In terms of accessories, she probably just needs things that keep her just moving very well day to day in life. So things like hinging, like 45-degree hyperextensions.
Not necessarily stuff in isolation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like you can kind of leak that in as she completes more and more programs.
For
so
sure.
It's going to be more functional to begin with. Because I think that's the thing. If you have minimal training days during a week, you want to be kind of like ticking the boxes.
You want to make them count.
Yeah. And like you want to be doing the more, I guess, like generic functional movement patterns that every human being needs.
Yeah.
And then when you get given more training days or a larger training age, you can specify a bit more in isolation on what exercises they can do.
Cool. I think as well, just like touching on squat to be specific, I think I'd probably start her off with like an SSB squat, assuming that she's not very familiar with barbell squatting.
What about with this knee injury? How are you managing that?
Very good question.
So she said that she has an injury in her knee from the previous job. It sometimes causes pain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, like imaginary person, we don't know how the pain gets caused, but we can only assume it's when she has to squat. Right. I guess firstly, when she comes in for like say a first session or like a technique session, it would be good to see what ranges she can comfortably move through. And then, put that in the program for her, whether even if you have to like modify it slightly to start off with. So she has to do like a box squat or something like SSB box squat. And then obviously we want to figure out what causes that pain too. You know?
So you want to,
so
use
accessorize
the
that.
progression-regression model, right?
Exactly right.
Start on the leg press.
Yeah, exactly.
And then jump into an anterior load. And then jump into, or even you can go even deeper than that. You can go Smith machine, right? Before that, or you can go leg extensions to begin with.
Yeah, or even, I don't know about belt squat.
Belt squat.
Yeah, okay.
Belt squat's great for old people.
Yeah,
because it pulls them down.
Yeah,
pulls them into hip flexion, and that's what they really struggle with is bending over.
Yeah.
So I think, like understanding your regression progression model for Sandra is probably, or just any 54 M2 lifter, because you need to know that, okay, we have the end goal of she wants to do powerlifting. Okay, she wants to get to some sort of high bar, low bar squat.
Yeah.
So how do we get there in terms of like which exercises to progress to and from? So I think that's a great start. So whether it's an SSB, manage the pain accordingly, use the regression progression model. Obviously, you want to think about getting towards the end goal of doing some sort of back squat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why I like to like starting off with something like an SSB, or even like you mentioned, start off with like a leg press or belt squat, even like a goblet squat or something, you know?
Yep.
Start off with something, and then I like to look at it as once that, I guess, skill or movement is like mastered, then you can progress them to like a high bar box squat. And then once they've gotten a bit better at that, let's take away the box, or let's reduce the height of the box.
Perfect.
And things like that. And then eventually, if she's just gotten really good at, normal high bar squatting, maybe we can give low bar a go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. What else am I missing? Covered bench press.
Yep.
We haven't covered deadlift. So she's got long arms. It's probably all right at deadlifting.
Yep.
Would obviously, imaginary person, got to see it.
I think one thing to touch on,
yeah,
with people who are just starting out, whether young or old, the cool thing about getting them better real fast is like you want to think about frequency. But it's not frequency in SBD, it's frequency in movements, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So if they're doing if Sandra, for example, as you mentioned, is doing her safety bars on a Monday, you do obviously want to do another squat of some sort later in the week.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So
I think that's where I'd probably put her on like belt squat.
Yeah.
Or something.
But something that is, it makes her think about what she needs to do.
Yeah.
Because even though you're thinking when you're using an SSB, like you should be if you're doing an SSB, like an SSB should be in a program to just help you move better no matter what.
Yeah.
So she probably needs to do a belt squat or some sort of like lighter loaded accessory on another day of the week at the opposite end of the week. Again, key things, spacing, just so she can actually get more out of that actual movement capacity. Because if she's just kind of squatting once a week, I can 100% put money on it that she's going to forget how to do it by the time she gets back around to
Probably
it.
like a tempo for sure.
Tempo, whatever, anything.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the last one, mate.
Cool, mate. Let me get that up for you. Thank you for that.
You're right.
All right.
Just zip through it because I can.
All right. Chloe, she's 16 years old, 57 kilos body weight. She reached out to be an online client because she lives in Victoria. She's 164 centimeters tall, short torso, short femurs, and average/slightly longer arms. She goes to school. She's taking 2 additional electives, plays on school volleyball team, mainly for fun or the social aspect. Moderate life stress, but recently it's gotten a bit higher for her. She's been training in powerlifting for 2 years. Her older brother got into powerlifting 5 years ago, and he coached her for those 2 years.
Cool.
She just did her first comp at a local event. She won best lifter in the sub-junior category, going 9 for 9 with a GL score of 81.
It's really good.
It is good. Her brother is moving for work and doesn't have the free time available anymore to coach her properly. So Nationals is 6 months away. She's aware she has a good shot at winning sub-juniors in the 57 kilo weight class with only 2 girls near her total. The girl who won last year is 10 kilos ahead, and another contender is 7.5 kilos behind. Chloe says she has been progressing quickly ever since she started 2 years ago, and her brother is happy to share training data.
Perfect.
There's more, but we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is great because you're getting an athlete who is young, has the data, and has good quality competition standard lifting because she went 9 for 9, didn't make any mistakes.
Yep.
So a lot of the things where it's like long pause bench because you don't pause your bench, or certain exercises like RDLs or any variation of deadlifts that you want to justify to improve deadlift lockout to lockout. A lot of those things don't even have to be considered in the equation of what makes up a program because she's already there lifting really well. So I think what you would want to probably do is arrange a call with her brother and her and just really get the most out of everything in terms of what has worked. Obviously, the brother's happy to share training data, but let's say, like, for hypothetical reasons, like you're talking to an ex-coach of an athlete that you're taking on. Like, I would love to talk to another coach who was with an athlete for a number of years and get everything out of them in terms of what their tendencies are, what they're like, a bit like a SWOT analysis, so to speak, right? But I also would love to do that with athletes who leave me as well. Because I only want what's best for them.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I'm gatekeeping or restraining an athlete to progress, and I know that I have information for them to get better. Like what good is that? What good is that doing me, holding them back, right?
Exactly.
So I would offer that invitation and try and get him on a call. Nationals being 6 months away is plenty of time to squeeze in like 6 blocks at least. Including a peak and taper, right? So you'd keep things relatively simple. You'd look at what her actual numbers are. Obviously, it doesn't specify here what her squat, bench, deadlift is, but if she's already hitting an 81 GL, it sounds like she's pretty good. It sounds like as well that she's really competitive. So I would lean more into that, but I would get her looking further in terms of like, you got nationals, but like you're 16, right? You've got you're 17 and 8. You've got 2 more years of sub-junior.
Exactly. Look outside of Australia.
Yeah, and look outside of Australia. Look at like what's happening at Worlds, regional competitions. And even though she may feel like that is a bit overwhelming because it is so far and so hard and beyond where she currently is right now.
It's not that far though.
You need to put it in range of their mind, because if they're not thinking about what's next, then what happens in front of them is going to be gone, because time moves fast when you're that young and as a powerlifter.
Do you feel like they'd get somewhat complacent?
Yeah. I reckon they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Educate them on being burnt out because it happens. You can't avoid it. Look at achieving goals beyond just your competitions. Like, to think about your training, changing around styles of lifting. Like, there is no harm changing a 16-year-old sub-junior with a training age of 2 years to doing sumo and conventional, or like going to heels or flats in a squat, or teaching them how to do a jap grip bench or whatever it may be, like giving them more tools to the toolbox to focus on more things like in their training. That can be a really good way of distracting them and helps them enjoy their training as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's pretty much all I would do.
Yeah.
I think what we've done today, Cake, has been good. We've gone over like a number.
It's actually been
people.
really good. I'd love to do this again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we've
That'd be fun.
We've done no open lifters though. We've only done like juniors, masters, and sub juniors.
Yeah.
To be honest, like that's a pretty common like category of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you're either young or you realising, fuck, I better start lifting some weights. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope you guys got something out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we understand that this probably went for a bit long, but I know for our valued listeners who actually enjoy, case studies and thinking about like how they can be better at terms of like onboarding, or even if you're just a listener and you're a lifter yourself and you want to hear more about like how we onboard, then jump on an onboarding call with us.
Absolutely, reach out to us.
Even if you just want to have a chat about things that could be done better in your training, we obviously offer free calls to just hop on and have a chat about your training and where things could be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, if you are looking for a new coach, Cake and I, we have spots open available.
We do.
But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, and
Thanks, guys.
thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. See ya.
Bye.